Hello and welcome to the movie podcast review of Avatar: The Way of Water. I'm just reeling in from saying that. I can't believe those words just kind of came out of my mouth. I feel like we've waited so long to say that. I've been practicing it almost every day in the mirror since 2009. Even though we didn't know what the subtitle for the movie was, I just kept saying The Way of Water sounds like it would be a good name for this movie. And of course, I'm joined here by my two fellow Na'vi. They're full Na'vi. They're not avatars. They're full Na'vi. You can tell by their braided hair and their three fingers. Daniel and Anthony. Daniel, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Also, we have 4 fingers. Thank you very much.
Yeah, true
Na'vi.
Na'vi.
The half.
Well,
The
three
the
with
mixed
the
ones have
thumb.
5. Well, yeah.
Thumb is a
Yeah.
Isn't
finger,
that?
no?
Isn't that?
I know, but
4 with
there's
the
that.
thumb?
But there's always this like thing where people are like, "Oh, your thumb is your thumb. It's not a finger." And
No.
maybe they're British when they say that to me. I don't know.
Or is it Arnold Schwarzenegger telling you that?
Hey, you
It's
got
not-
you.
it's
you
not a
Na'vi.
finger.
I meant just like the German 3, I guess.
Got
Or
you.
2,
You know
yeah.
what? I want to see Arnold Schwarzenegger as a Na'vi. Like, there's nothing I want
It's
more
gonna
now.
happen.
Like, obviously, he has.
It's gonna happen.
It has to,
Yeah,
right?
It has
Do you?
to.
I believe that Cameron's original vision before Sam Worthington, when he was making this movie, probably when he was writing it in 94, 95, he was like, "Yeah, Arnold, that's it. That's the guy I got for this movie." 'Cause he just came
I
off of
wish.
True Lies.
I wish, and it's funny, Shay, because you were talking about the lead up to this movie, the release date. We've had, the original one from 2014, and then it went to 2016, and then 17, 18, 20, 22, and now we're here. Like, it's absolutely wild to hear you saying the Way of Water review, Avatar: The Way of Water, because this felt like such like a figment of our imagination,
becoming
our
a
hopes
myth.
and dreams.
It was literally
Yeah.
becoming one of those
Right?
myths of Hollywood where it's like, will it ever come out? Will it come out? And then you would slowly, it was kind of like disappear. But James Cameron, he made it happen. He said it's coming out, and it's coming
the
out
other voice you're hearing-
2022.
Is Anthony? Anthony, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. I just want to, like, after watching this film, I want to kind of go on vacation. Like, I want to go to somewhere hot.
Pandora?
Not Pandora. Probably like Mexico or somewhere where there's like a nice beach. Just because, seeing a lot of water and seeing a lot of sand and being in the weather that we're in currently. Yeah, I just want to be in someplace warm and eating some fish, because there's a lot of fish
Ooh.
in this.
There's a
in
lot
this
of
movie.
fish.
Yeah,
Also,
a lot
Pandora,
of like
I
alien
feel like
fish.
would be very alien fish, the most delicious type.
Yes.
But I feel like Pandora would be a very dangerous place to vacation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be very dangerous.
Yeah,
How you doing though, Shay?
A lot of people dying. I'm doing great, man. I can't believe like we stayed pretty much till the credits were finished rolling to make sure that it actually was Avatar that played. We wanted to not get psyched out. But I'm feeling good. I'm happy that I finally get to talk about this movie. But I'm also happy that we had a really fun time watching it, and I can't wait to kind of discuss that further.
Definitely.
Again, this is the movie podcast. So if you've been following us on social media, you're right. Our username is the movie podcast. That's everywhere. That's TikTok. That's Twitter. That's Instagram. Facebook. Probably we don't have it on Facebook, but we have MySpace. I tried finishing with our MySpace recently. Not easy. Not easy. So I'm
No.
gonna have to give up on that one.
Yeah, I don't even know if MySpace has like a phone app. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, no,
Great
we're
question.
still web based. We're still
Yeah.
web based.
We're on the Palm Pilots
Yeah.
only. Oh, okay.
Guys, we use Java still. You're using Java? Okay.
But you know what, man? We've been doing great on TikTok. I don't know if you know this. We really had an uprising on TikTok recently.
We had what the kids call an old viral video, which
Yeah.
is
Maybe
pretty
not
amazing
the
to see.
kids, because as I tweeted it out, I told my sister, I'm like, hey, this video that we just posted, by the way, it's at like 60K views. She's like, okay, yeah, my lowest one has 404. Like, what's your point? And I'm like,
Is that true
I
though?
will shut
is
up.
Is that a true
Yeah,
thing?
she has like
404. Wow.
her lowest performing video. I guess she does like TikToks for some game that she plays, but I'm not
Yeah.
here to plug her. I'm here to plug us right now.
But can I do a quick plug for you, Shay? Now that you've mentioned that video, you know what it's
Please
at
plug.
now? 140K. You know what?
Still not as good as
bad.
my sister,
But
though.
you- so
Not as good as my sisters.
You said that they were mostly boomers, like baby boomers. Like baby boomers are watching our like at this point.
When I looked at the statistics for this video, it was ages 35 to 55 and up.
okay.
Wow.
That's interesting.
I was very blown away by that.
Interesting.
I'll be honest with you.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
it happens.
Anyone,
Why not?
Anyone under that age was like, "Why am I on this app?" For some reason, I guess.
Shout out to Alfred Molina.
Shout out to Alfred Molina, yes. But go ahead, follow us there. We're gonna be dropping a lot more videos, obviously, and we're gonna have a lot of fun. Yeah, Daniel, any announcements before we kind of kick into Avatar?
Yeah, let's talk about what's going on here on the movie podcast. You know, this is one of our last reviews. This is technically our last review that we're recording together this year. We do have a Babylon review that is coming out later this week, which will be our last review of the year. But this is our last time we're recording a review together. We do have some interviews going up later this week as well, too, with some of the cast of this very movie we're talking about. So if you want to hear us talk to some of the stars of the next generation of the Avatar, including Bailey Bass, Jack Champion, Jamie Flatters, and Trinity Jolie Bliss, you know, tune in later this week. We're super excited to be talking with them in person as well. So we're going to have some really cool interviews, some really cool moments. And as Shay said, follow us on all the socials so you could see those videos. We were also really lucky to speak with John Landau, who is the producer of this film as well. So we have lots of Avatar stuff going on. It is no secret. It is one of the biggest films of the year. It's one of the most anticipated films, I think, of all time, with the lead up to it since 2009. So yeah, I'm surprised we didn't go paint ourselves all blue. I'm a little disappointed. We did pitch that earlier this year. We didn't do it. But if somebody wants to pay us to paint ourselves blue, that could be a goal for the new year.
I'm not doing that.
Anthony, for the right amount of money, you will do what the people ask us.
What's the amount of money? What's the amount of money it would take?
Yeah.
$1,000 each.
What's your limit? Yeah, what's your limit?
To paint myself blue? 20 grand.
Yeah.
20,000.
20 grand?
20,000.
My goodness. Yeah. Okay, this is not lead paint, by the way. This is like washable paint.
Yeah, like take a shower after, you'll be okay.
You want me to blue?
Dude, even the Blue Man Group
You're
doesn't
doing
make
it for
1,000. They do so many more things.
Yeah, man, that's a good amount.
20,000. Flat rate.
I was gonna take $500 and do it. Okay.
Wow.
I mean,
Wait,
I can wear
you
clothes.
guys are getting paid?
The Blue Man Group turns around and what's going on here?
What's going on here? But yeah, so yeah, we have lots of great interviews, lots of great reviews that you'll be able to listen to, and we will be taking a little bit of a hiatus, of course, over the holiday break, over the Christmas break. But we will be back with a vengeance in the new year with lots of reviews already in the can, ready to go, and with some, looking back at 2022 and looking forward to 2023. So there's lots to look forward to. 2022 is a big year for the movie podcast. Wait till you see 2023.
Anthony's already been there. He knows what's coming.
I know what's happening.
He knows what's coming.
One of us is not here. I'm just letting you know.
Oh
no! Damn it!
And as the audience has to guess.
We just dated this video, so if anything does happen to one of us, we're going to be looking back at this and be like, "Oh, that aged poorly. That aged poorly."
Yeah. You know what's funny? Like in a couple of episodes ago, we talked about we're going to be taking a break and we're going to have some time off, and then I said, unless something crazy happens, like Henry Cavill leaves the DCU, that has now aged poorly as well. So I'm so sorry about that one.
Yeah, nothing surprises me anymore. Nothing.
Oh man. All right, well, let's get into some Avatar. Let's dive into this water here. And first, before we do that, I want to give a huge shout out to our friends over at Disney and 20th Century Studios for inviting us to come watch this film. Avatar: The Way of Water will be releasing exclusively in theaters December 16th by 20th Century Studios. And I am going to kick it over to Mr. Anthony for our synopsis.
Set more than a decade after the events of the first film, Avatar: The Way of the Water begins to tell the story of the Sully family, Jake, Neytiri, and their kids. The trouble that follows them, the length they go to keep each other safe, and battles they fight to stay alive, and the tragedies they endure.
Thank you so much. And of course, this film does star Sam Worthington, Zoe Saldaña, Stephen Lang, Kate Winslet, Cliff Curtis, Edie Falco, Jemaine Clement, Brendan Cowell, Joel David Moore, CCH Pounder, Giovanni Ribisi, Dileep Rao, and Matt Gerald, with Sigourney Weaver coming back in a new, I'm going to use air quotes here if you're watching on YouTube, new role. Because there is some newness to it, but there's also some hot. And before we get to our first reaction, I just want to say again, I can't believe we watched this movie. Daniel, please give us your first reaction to Avatar: The Way of Water.
I can't believe we watched this movie. It's just so wild that when we were actually going to the theater, we were sitting down, we're like, oh my God, we are about to finally watch Avatar: The Way of Water. This film has felt like a myth for, like a third of my life at this point. Like when we're going back to 2009, watching that first Avatar film, you felt like this changed. This changed the trajectory of where Hollywood is going. And I honestly believe that Avatar The Way of Water changes everything. We're in a new era of what visual effects can be. And I think James Cameron is always going to be that person on the cutting edge of that. What's coming next? Every frame of this film, I'm like, why can't all movies with visual effects look like this? And I know this movie is very expensive. He's been working on it for a very, very long time. We were just looking at a cast photo from 2017. But when you see the fidelity, you see the details, you see the look and feel of this film, you are instantly transported to Pandora. There is no shadow of a doubt where you are. Avatar has been the butt of a lot of jokes over the last decade of, oh, it's an unoriginal story. Oh, they're just blue cats. It doesn't matter. It's silly. No. Regardless of what you say about Avatar, it changed the landscape of Hollywood, not just with 3D, but what visual effects and what motion capture could be on the biggest of scales. And we're seeing that now time and time again of what these characters, what this medium could do for the industry. And The Way of Water is that in spades. It's absolutely gorgeous. It is beautiful. It sounds beautiful. Like every single thing in this film technically is astonishing. The motion capture, the visuals, the sound, everything. It's incredible. And of course, James Cameron is at the forefront of that, giving us his first directed film in like 13, 14 years. And before that, he's been living in Avatar worlds for the last 20 years. And when you see a film like this, you totally understand why. He is pushing this medium forward. Now, does everything work in this movie? It doesn't. But let me tell you where my issues lied. It wasn't with the story. I really enjoyed the story. I think the story goes to some really interesting places. I think it goes a lot deeper than what the first film did, where it's just like, kind of a white savior type thing happening in the first film. He kind of gets acquainted with the worlds and now he becomes one of them. Well, now in this film, let's take that further. Let's talk about the family. Let's go deeper into the roots of the Na'vi and this world of Pandora. We know Pandora is a massive place, and we get to see that really showcased in this film. We're going to a lot of different locations. We're going deeper into these locations, literally within the water, and you are just totally lost in the beauty of it all, not lost in a bad way. The biggest issues I will say I have with this film before I kick it off to you guys, we watched it in IMAX 3D, which is a lovely way to watch this film. I'm not a big fan of 3D, but I will say, of course, James Cameron, the 3D looked great. The 3D was never distracting for me. What was distracting for me in this film was the constant shifting between 24 frames per second to 48 frames per second. So it makes the normal watching the watch makes the 24 frames per second seem very slow when you're cutting back and forth, and then it makes the 48 frames feel really fast, like the movie's on double time speed. So you're not really given a lot of time to adjust when it's cutting back and forth like that. If it was constant throughout, I think it would have been a much better experience. I am watching this again in just 24 frames throughout in IMAX 3D later this week, so I will report back on a future episode to see how that felt for me. Also, this is a long movie. James Cameron is not holding back at all. I think the length is warranted, but I do think you could have shaved an easy 15 minutes off this film right in the middle to really tighten it up, because there is a lot of movie here. There's a lot of plot points, and this is really just kicking off what is going to be a 5-film epic. So this feels like we are just getting into the world building and to the larger story that is coming. But I had a wonderful time with this movie. Jaw was open, just blown away by what I was watching.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I love that you touched on the difference between the 24 to 48 frames, because to some people it's like, well, I'm just gonna go watch this movie in whatever format I can find, and a lot of theaters may not be giving people that education of what is the difference. So yeah, traditionally we watch a film in about 23.9 frames, so 24 frames per second was the number of frames that are occurring. This movie has scenes where they kind of double that pretty much, and because they're doubling that, it does help the smoothness of the 3D and the visual effects. It actually makes them look really good when they do it that way. But the problem is that the movie constantly shifts. So when you're watching a film regularly, you may cut from one angle to the other, and you'll see that occur in this movie with the frames just kind of drop. And if you've ever played video games, it almost feels like the frame rate's dropping a bit, and that little jitter and jagged edges kind of appear, which really threw me out of the film personally. I wish, how when we watch a lot of IMAX movies, they have sequences that are in that full IMAX format. I wish in this film, if they either didn't want to commit to a frame rate, then they did portions of the film at one consistent frame rate, because it jumps around so much that it really, really took me out. But Anthony, let's get to your first reaction for Avatar: The Way of Water.
Yeah, Avatar: The Way of the Water is breathtaking. It's probably the best CG I've ever seen. Like, not one shot ever fails on screen. Everything is like perfect. Perfect. Like I was looking, I'm like, okay, let's see if there's any shot here that I could tell that that's not real, or he messed up, or it was screwed. No, everything from beginning to end, 3 hours and 10 minutes of perfect visuals. And it's a feat, because we all know, like, visuals now, and the amount of work that goes into it and all that, it's a lot of work. And James Cameron, his 10 years in the making film, has showed that, yeah, we can have perfect visuals throughout the movie. And like I said, it's the best CG I've ever seen in a film. And these are photorealistic CG characters. Many times throughout the film, I kept looking at the Navi, and I'm like, man, are these real people? I'm trying to understand. Are they I'm looking at their lips. I know their eyes are fake, but their chin line, their jawline, and the skin texture. Like, I recently watched the first Avatar, and it still stands ground. Like, it's a great film, and visually it's stunning. But you can tell, like, they weren't there with the lighting. They weren't there. A lot of the scenes felt flat. This
The
scene,
lighting is a big thing, right? The
yeah,
lighting
the
is big.
lighting, because
Big deal.
you're dealing with like trees and bushes, and there's a lot of shadows that they cast and all that. But this film, it's like everything looks fantastic. Like, James Cameron has created a world beyond our comprehension. When it comes to Pandora, when it comes to the Navi, when it comes to these the water sequences and the fish that live in it, and how connected these beings are to the aquatic life. Because remember, they're coming from a forest environment, and now they are kind of been thrown into a water environment.
Thrown to the deep end, yeah.
Yeah, they're thrown in the deep end, and it's just fantastic to actually, like, have an understanding of these tribes and how they deal with one another. You never put these two together. Like, you didn't think this was a story route that he was going to go down. But for me to sit back and analyze and critique James's creativity when it comes to the Navi or Pandora, or the amount of risks he's taken to make this film, would be disrespectful to him, because what we got today was absolutely jaw dropping. Like, yeah, the story is not the strongest story in the world, but it's deeply moving. There is a dynamic between the family and the characters that really become absorbing. Like, their performances at the end of this film have become like, man, you really care for these characters. You really care for this family. And there are raw performances, especially by Zoe Saldaña, who emotes, the motherly figure now. Like, we know her as, like, the warrior, but now she's a mother, and she has different characteristics. And every single character that we kind of interact with, they just have real performances. And I was saying to you guys when we left, it's like, we need to celebrate this, because when we nominate actors and actresses and all that stuff, it's always a real person. And I think it was Andy Serkis that really drew the motion capture and the performance driven takes that we get from those films into the limelight of, these are real performances. But with what James Cameron has done with this movie and the characters, these performances look even beyond real. Like, they're like, these are real things that are happening in front of us, and that's CG. And it's like, holy shit. Like, how can I not nominate Zoe, and how can I not nominate Sam Worthington? I know this sounds strange, but there are real raw performances that we're getting that you haven't seen before. And it's a little jarring, because they're like, these are not real people. These are blue aliens that don't exist, but it's real. It's crazy. And I don't know what else to say. But other than the, I'm in the same boat with Daniel in regards to the frame rate. It is a little jarring, and I understand why we have it. There are parts in this film where it works, and there are parts that it doesn't. It almost comes off like I felt like a lot of times I was entering like a PlayStation cinematic, and I was then entering a game. You ever see it? You know how they lead up to the game? It's like, okay, there was this big action sequence,
Yeah.
and then the camera kind of is behind the character, and then you would just take over the character. That's how it felt at certain points of this movie, where it's like, holy shit, I feel like I'm playing a video game, like a really high end game.
Right.
But a lot of it is, the story is really fascinating. It really it again, there's a little bit of an environmentalist tone to it, but in overall, like what we got, and James Cameron always delivers at the end. He always knows how to like hit that mark. It's like, here's a story, but then let's put some action into it, and it's just boom. We get everything he loves. He loves the boats. He loves the water. He loves his fishes, and he loves his, his aliens, and we have skulls and mech warriors and things that we kind of like will see from Terminator or Abyss or Titanic, all encompassed into one film. And I'm excited to see where this movie goes after this film. Like I want to see Avatar 3, Avatar 4. A lot of it is that world building, and I think he capitalized on that. I really got invested into these characters and where the story leads to at the end, because 10 years ago it was hard to like really, it was like that, it was a shot in the dark, and here we are with the second film, and hopefully the third and fourth will come out a lot sooner. But overall, fantastic movie.
Yeah, I think what you said, Anthony, about one of the biggest complaints with people in the first Avatar is like, yeah, like I didn't really connect with the characters. I didn't really, there's not really much there for me. And I get it. When we have a one film where you're dealing with like human characters and aliens, like there's if you're wanting to build into a franchise, you need more films. And I think finally what The
Hmm.
Way of Water I think does best is give depth to so many of the characters and spotlight a lot of the younger new cast, which carry a lot of this movie. They're not just there. The kids are in this more than I would say than Zoe Saldana and Sam Worthington are. So they do a lot of the heavy lifting, and they are fantastic throughout.
Mhm. Like this movie is an historic achievement in visual effects. Like there's just so many moments where I actually forgot. Like I believe that they shot this on Pandora. I believe that this was all in camera because it's that good looking. You set the benchmark so high for where you can kind of go with visual effects. And then you see other movies coming out, and it's so hard to compare. And like you said, Anthony, this has been a work in progress for so many years, and the money that's been poured into it. But I was so invested in how everything looked that it got me invested in the story. The story in the first one, again, not its strongest, but in this one, it is a lot better. Not a home run, in my opinion, but still a lot better because that world building element is there. But because of that world building element, you do get a lot of threads that are kind of left just off the spool, I guess, where you don't know if they're gonna revisit it down the road in the next feature film. You kind of hope they are, and you're just kind of wondering, okay, well, where is this gonna go? So there are those issues that still this movie still has, and again, yes, you can cut off about 20 minutes of this film to save some time because 3 hours plus films are great. When you look at a movie like Babylon, it utilized every minute of the film and never felt bored in it. But then you look at something like this, where there's a middle portion that I think, while it looked beautiful, while it was awesome to look at, it definitely slowed the pace of this film down a lot. Daniel, you mentioned that we see more of the kids in this one. They're really the front runners of this movie, and it's absolutely true. Not only are they phenomenal, but they're also so entertaining to watch because they've got their personalities and they let them shine. And I'm totally okay with Sam Worthington and Zoe Saldana kind of taking a bit of a backseat, more of the paternal figures in this movie, and kind of going based off that because you kind of need that. We know that the movies are gonna be, going forward in the 3, 4, 5, how many movies he wants to do in this world. They're gonna be led by these characters. Um, it's interesting that Kate Winslet's in this movie because you kind of forget, like, she doesn't, like, she looks a little bit like Kate Winslet, but there's not the Kate Winslet isms in this movie. So I'm wondering, what Cameron saw in this and what he wanted to do with it. But I also remember hearing, and we talked to John Landau about how she beat Tom Cruise's record for holding her breath underwater. And I feel like, was there a
That was
scene where
it.
that like was necessary? Like, like, did we know when that moment? Like, she just wanted to beat Tom Cruise and was like, "Yeah, Tom, I
Yeah.
got you," and then like kind of like
But
dip from
definitely,
there.
but definitely, I think characters, like you said, and what we said, we're seeing these characters introduced, and they're going to play large parts moving forward in the story
Huge
for sure.
roles, and especially with Sigourney Weaver's character, that it's a very interesting character because she has a very big connection with Awa, their god, and that is kind of propelling a lot of the myth in this film forward, a lot of that lore. And I'm so glad we've also left the forest behind, because even though we didn't get a lot of movies, we only got one movie that took place in the forest. That scenery change to the water really helped, and I hope more movies that are trying to create the worlds, that are trying to develop further, do that for their future installments. Show us different areas of this world you're creating, because it only gets us
I
involved
think that's
further.
what, when we look at Wakanda Forever, what I think it did so well too is that we got to see different areas of Wakanda. We weren't just in the throne room, we weren't just in the nice palace areas, and then we also got to see that contrast with Talokan in Wakanda Forever. Again, a water city where like blue water inhabitants live, but it's important for that I guess that freshness to it. And I think in the first Avatar, watching it, you're like, okay, I feel like I'm in the forest all the time, which is great. It's very bioluminescence, which looks beautiful. But we've seen that. James Cameron knows we've seen that. We've been seeing that the last 13 years of Avatar. What's going to push it forward? Let's go under the water.
There's also the scale. The scale of these shots just make everything look so much bigger.
Unreal. Yeah.
Especially with the fish, the aquatic life and the scale, because we know the Navi are pretty big creatures, and then you have these bigger creatures that live underwater, and it's just like holy mackerel! It feels much larger, and I don't know if it's just because it's like shot differently, or probably shooting 8K 3D, all this crazy things that we don't know about, but it looks so much better on screen. It feels grander in the scope of wow, this really feels like a planet compared to 10 years ago, or 13 years ago when the first one came out.
Definitely.
Yeah. And well, let's talk about the score a little bit here, because James Horner, rest in peace, did the score for the first film, and it resonated with me a lot when I watched it. I loved it. I hummed it a lot as well when I would like be chilling at home. We get Simon Franklin in this one, and there's elements that I thought were really reminiscent of the first film. I believe Simon was from the school of
Yep.
James Horner as well, so we definitely get a lot of those moments, but still kind of carve his own path. But I don't think the score in this film, for me personally, stood out as much as the
You're right.
first one
I'm
did.
100% there with you. We definitely get, recurring themes that we are familiar with from the first film, where it's like, oh, this is familiar. Like I know this sound, I know this score, I know this theme. But there wasn't as many as sweeping orchestral scores and moments like we had in very much in the first film, which kind of had that bewilderment and that magic feel to it. This felt very different. There was a little bit more synths in this one. It felt like it was kind of creating its own path. But I definitely did miss, obviously, rest in peace to James Horner. I did miss that the epicness, that grandness to the original score.
The
Yeah,
sound the sound
that's
design
exactly
is
it. But
if we're talking
go
about
ahead.
sound, the sound design is fantastic though. Like I can say
Oh
that
yeah.
holy,
Yes.
it feels like you're underwater, it feels like you're in the air. All you needed was like a brush of water to hit your face to make you feel like you were really there. But man, they got the sound design packed. I'm guessing it took like a whole crew of sound engineers to make this movie,
Oh
because
yeah.
3 hours and 10 minutes of this, there's a lot of happening. There's like I said, big fishes. They're making unique sounds, and you got the mech warriors that are like just shooting out their bullets from their, like everything is on point. Like it's just, what can I
Yeah.
say? Like everything is great.
There's a lot
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah. A lot of
Yeah,
sample
and
worthy
also like
sounds.
we have returning characters in this as well too from the first film. Stephen Lang returning back. We got to speak to him back in September for the re-release, and we got to thank him for always scaring like the hell out of us. And he sure did love that question. But he's so scary in this. Like what I love most. Again, we're not going to
Yeah.
talk about how he's in it or any spoilers or anything like that, but um, I really love the way he was used in this. I thought it was very clever, very on brand for what this world is, what the world of Avatar allows. There was never a moment where I'd be like, oh, that's a little far fetched. I mean, because we are on a planet with blue
Right.
aliens, but everything feels in line with what is scientifically possible within the world of Avatar. And I really loved his performance in this film. And yeah, anytime he is on screen, I just feel uneasy. I feel like he is so unpredictable.
Mhm.
What's going to be his next move? He is so good in this, especially interacting with everyone else.
And he has a bigger role in this one too. Like he had a good role in the first one, but it
Yeah,
feels
for sure.
bigger in
He has
this
more
one.
character depth, I would say. Like there's a lot more to him than just being that one dimensional, I'm a
Like
Marine
Marine, yeah.
and this is my duty. There's more to it. And I think that's what I liked about his character in this coming back, in the sense that it there's more at stake with him than it was before.
Right. And I think too
Mhm.
one of the issues with the runtime of this film is that you do feel like you could be away from characters for a while. Where when we cut back to
Right.
what's the what are the bad guys doing in this film? It's like, oh shoot, we haven't seen them in a while. But I do think if it was tightened up a little bit more, um, it would have been, I think, a lot more of a cohesive kind of overarching story. But again, James Cameron doesn't need us to tell him what to do. This is his vision. This is what he's been wanting to do. He would
He
tell
would
us to
tell us
shut
to
up,
shut up.
watch the movie, and go watch it again. So, yes, sir.
Yeah.
We'll take your orders, sir.
It's true. There were moments when I was watching it. I'm like, and we spent so long with the family. I'm like, well, what's this guy up to? And then it didn't cut back to them for another 10, 15 minutes. And I'm like, okay, I think we spent enough time with these people. Let's move on. But another, beyond James Cameron, there is another Canadian connection in this movie, and that is, of course, The Weeknd. That he has a song for Avatar. I didn't think I'd also be saying that, not along with Avatar the review, but Avatar the song by The Weeknd. Great song. I thought it was really cool. I mean, we got to hear it in the end credits, obviously, but I just love anything that The Weeknd pumps out, and he's Canadian and we're Canadian, so we kind of love him for that. But yeah, what'd you guys think of that song? I know it was kind of like rushed at the end when we were sitting there,
It's
but
great. It was a perfect vibe for the film. Abel always delivers, and I think it felt right with this film. Definitely. I mean, it's no Celine Dion. You know what I mean? But
it's
right.
no, my heart
But
will go
again, hey,
on. But
another Canadian,
another
right? Wait,
Canadian.
who did the
Yeah.
score? Because I know they did "I See You." Who did "I See You"?
I
But
could
I
take
don't
a
think
look
they were
into that.
Canadian though, because I know I see their face. I just can't think of their name. But they're
No,
not.
they're
It
not
wasn't a
Canadian
Canadian
faces, eh?
face. It was not a Canadian face.
It
Leona
was
Lewis.
Liana
Yeah, so
Oh
she's
Lewis.
wow.
not Canadian. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
enjoyed the song. I would say like
yeah, she's not
it's great. Like
Canadian.
I only heard it once, and I was also getting over the fact that I just watched this film, so it wasn't like I wasn't paying attention to the song. I just know it was, oh, that's The Weeknd's voice, and I'm like, okay, cool. I have to write this tweet. I have to stand up because my legs were like wobbly, but yeah. So
Jelly at this
I
point.
will
Yeah,
listen to it again. But it's The Weeknd. He doesn't make bad music.
Do you think he made this song in
exactly.
space? Like,
That's
do you think
exactly
James
it.
Cameron was like, "Abel, we're going to send you to
He,
space
he did it underwater
to
for sure.
do this"?
Do you think he did it in his avatar form or in his,
Ah, man, now
able
you're
form?
asking tough questions. Now we have to. He's going to be.
It's the right
It is
questions
the right
to
question
ask,
to ask.
though.
He's going to be the third Avatar. What do you guys think the third film is going to be called? This one.
Yeah.
So we have Avatar, Avatar: The Way of Water, and then Avatar: The
Ooh.
Dial of Destiny.
Avatar 3. Avatar 3.
You see me.
You don't want to be. Yeah, now you see me.
We can't really
It's a
give
magic
a
film, yeah.
title because that might give away the ending of the film. So it's pretty hard to like not describe, because there is a lot, like you can really
Avatar 3, we're still not V. Okay.
Yeah, Avatar 3, Jake dies. But he didn't what? But this is so weird. What a specific thing to do. No,
No,
don't worry,
no
guys. We're not
spoilers.
doing any spoilers, obviously. This is a spoiler-free review. We want you guys to go watch it, enjoy the movie. Is there anything else we want to touch on before we kind of give everybody
I
our
just
final
died that you just told
recommendations?
people 34 minutes into our review that it's spoiler free.
Just in case they were wondering, they're like, hold on a second. This is a spoiler review. But you know why? Because this is a 3-hour long
There we
review.
go.
So
We're
I was
just
kind
getting
of
warmed up.
started.
The title
actually.
card hasn't even dropped yet.
Yeah. But yeah, anything you guys want to touch on before we jump
I'm
to
good.
our
I'm good
final
to go.
recommendations? Well, let's jump into it. Anthony, let's kick it off with you. What is your final recommendation for the Avatar?
This is a
Avatar:
real
The
gem.
Way of Water.
3 for 3. The last month.
Wow.
Actually, if you're listening to this, the third gem hasn't come out yet, so you'll hear about that gem soon. But This is a great film. You need to watch it in theaters. You need to experience it. You need to enjoy this with your family. Watch the first one. Definitely watch the first one because you will be lost if you haven't watched the first one. There's a lot of fallback. What is it? Kick back or look back, or you guys are just shaking your head.
No, I'm just nodding. I'm not
because I don't know what you're saying. You're like fall back.
No, they just
back,
talk about the story
back,
from the first one a lot, so you need to know what's happening. And there's a lot of characters, and there's a lot of a lot of story from that one that transfers to this one. So yes, go watch it, enjoy it, watch it in 3D. I want to watch it again, but probably in 24 frames, because the one thing I didn't mention is I actually enjoyed the 24 frames more than the higher frame rate of 48. So I would probably recommend watching it in 24 frames. And again, I don't know how many theaters have the higher frame rate option. But
it's interesting because when Daniel was looking online to see, what formats for playing it in high frame as well. Like here in Canada, we have something called Ultra AVX. And that was playing it in high frame rate, but so were some screenings in IMAX. So it's just got to keep an eye on what kind of movie you're going for. That's really important nowadays with all these different formats. So before you go in and wonder like what's going on with this movie, why am I wearing sunglasses all of a sudden? You may be in the 3D screening, so just keep an eye out for that as well. But Daniel, let's get to your final recommendation.
Avatar: The Way of Water is absolutely astonishing, beginning to end. I think it is massive. It is gorgeous. The visuals, the motion capture. What James Cameron was able to pull off is nothing short of incredible. But for me, I think the length definitely does take away from, I think, the story that was being told. And not that it takes away from my score anyway, because I am going to see this in 24 frames, but I think the constant switching between 24 and 48 didn't take away from the movie, but it does take away a little bit from the experience, if that makes sense. Does that make sense a little bit, right? But it doesn't change how I feel about this movie. This movie's incredible. I'm saying this is my highest watch it I could give. I would say technically this movie is a real gem, but in terms of, I think, going to the theater, watching it, go watch this movie, go have an amazing time at the theater. This is why you go to the movies, is to watch a movie like this, to watch something that will transport you, something that will be something like you've never seen before. Go watch it. Super highly recommended. This is what you want to watch this over the Christmas season. There's no better way that you could go to a theater and not have a better time than watching this movie. So definitely go watch it. You'll love it.
Yeah, and for myself, I'd say a huge watch it as well. I absolutely love this movie. I think it's a cinematic juggernaut. It is massive. The scale of this movie is absolutely epic. I think there's some story elements, there are some technical elements like the frame rate that didn't do it for me. But overall, this is a movie that you got to go out to watch in IMAX as well. The bigger the screen, the better. 2D if you can. Avoid the high frame rate, but go on this underwater adventure, this voyage, this odyssey underwater, and you're gonna have a fantastic time, I think, especially if you're a fan for the first movie. But like Anthony mentioned, the first movie is a recommended fall back, watch back, or whatever you said, Anthony. I can't remember. It was a lot of words you used just to say watch the last movie.
It's true. My brain is all scattered.
Well, that was our review. It is. It's okay. You were underwater for so long, and with 3D glasses, it kind of
my brain was definitely messed up a little bit after the 3D because it's been so long, right? The last thing I saw in 3D was, not including like the last Avatar we watched, was like The Lion King, right? And then the trailer for Avatar before Doctor Strange. So, yeah.
Right. But the thing is, I'm a man of glasses, so glasses on glasses is not a recommended look. Like, we get called 4 eyes. You don't get called 6 eyes.
It's like wearing pants on
your
pants.
Weird thing,
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Interesting. I wouldn't have gone there, but here we are. Well, that was our review for Avatar: The Way of Water. Let us know what you think when you go watch this movie. We'd love to hear from you, and you can tell us what you thought of this movie on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. You can write into us at hello@themoviepodcast.ca. Let us know what you thought of the movie. Maybe if you're not watching it, tell us why you're not watching it. We'd love to hear from all sides of everybody. We encourage the conversation. The conversation is encouraged also on Discord. Join us there. We're going to have a lot of fun conversations going into the holiday break. Love to know what you're doing for the holidays, whether you're spending it at home, whether you're traveling, whatever it is you're doing, let us know. It's always fun to know what everyone everyone around the world is up to. That was This Time with the Movie Podcast, and we'll see you next.